Welcome to another episode of Coaching Football with Brian Clee.
Time to get down in the trenches. That's right, episode 17. We're going to talk about defensive line play.
Quick thank you to my daughter Mila for helping me shoot the introduction. There we are, dressed up for Spirit Day last school year. I think it's really important for any younger coaches to understand that whatever fundamentals you're teaching your defensive players, it does need to fit within your overall defensive philosophy. We strongly believe every sound defensive scheme is going to rely on a force defender that sets the edge, inside defenders filling the interior gaps, which is the primary role of our defensive linemen, and then an alley player fitting in between those gap fillers and that force player, and then lastly some backside player responsible for the cutback or a counter. All of our defenders are going to have simple yet sound keys and reads in order for them to attack blockers, defeat blocks, and pursue the ball carrier. Up front, we prefer to spill the ball and kill it on the perimeter because it allows for very consistent run fits that let all of our guys play fast, play downhill, and get as many defenders as possible pursuing the tackle. Really believe as much as we coach profile tackling, roll tackling, getting a good angle, all of that stuff involved with leverage and making the tackle. Tackles are just better when you get 2-3 guys on defense tackling that ball carrier. Our fundamentals for defensive line begin with let's have a correct alignment every snap. Let's have an explosive stance to execute the assignment of attacking the offensive line on every play. We're going to throw a strike and deliver a blow on a target to reset the line of scrimmage every play, whether we're playing a head-up even technique, an outside shaded technique, or we're on some sort of movement. We are going to primarily key the movement of the offensive lineman that we're targeting. We'll see the ball on our peripherals, but we're keying the movement of the offensive lineman in front of us. Also helps set up drills. You don't need to be carrying a ball around or a ball on a stick or anything like that. That guy in front of you moves, you go. We read the movement of that offensive lineman, particularly the screws of the helmet. They're either moving inside, it's a down block or a pull away, or they're moving to our outside, a reach block, a pass block, a base block, and then we're going to react to control that block. If it's movement down inside, we're squeezing and looking to spill. If it's movement to our outside, we're working to stretch and maintain that outside gap. Quickly before we proceed, there's how we letter our gaps, which is pretty standard, and there's how we number our alignments. Not usually much argument until you get out to that tight end. Apparently the story is that Bum Phillips, as defensive coordinator for Paul Bear Bryant, said 6 was head up on a tight end. Not a lot of coaches argue there, but then what do you call that inside shade and outside shade? Bum Phillips said outside shade is a 9 technique, inside is a 7. 8 would be out on a wing. It's what my head coach goes with. We don't actually line up in a 7 technique on our defense, so it doesn't really confuse our kids, and I just go with what the head coach says. So there's how we number our techniques. Our odd techniques, both odd and even, we're going to line as close to the line of scrimmage as possible. We're, as a base, going to align with our inside foot on the outside foot. We're going to line up with our inside foot, splitting the crotch of the offensive lineman in front of us, and our face mask on that outside shoulder. You got our 1s, our 3s, our 5s. We will adjust and move to a tight technique, a tight odd technique, where we put our inside foot just outside of the inside foot of the offensive lineman, which puts our nose on the offensive lineman's ear hole, especially if it's a team that likes to trap. If we get into a little bit more of a long yardage pass rush situation, we'll widen our technique and put our inside foot on the outside foot of the offensive lineman we're lined up across from. Even technique, again, we're as close to the ball as possible. We're going to have both our feet on the feet of the offensive lineman in front of us. We're going to be face mask on face mask, and we play what many coaches call a leg technique against reach blocks because we're primarily focused on striking that blocker in front of us to reset the line of scrimmage. I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into some of the drills. Our stance is going to be shoulder width with our outside foot. You got Cole down here. Our outside foot is forward, our inside foot is back, and we're a heel to toe stagger. I'll have the guys go out, they get to shoulder width, they bring their feet back together, they put that inside foot back so the toes with the heel, they'll go back to shoulder width to get that stance to be solid. Our hand placement is in line with the feet. That inside hand is always going to be down. So out of a squat, the guys will reach forward, drag their hands in the grass until they reach a point where they would fall forward if they remove their hands, which is typically just a little bit inside that toe. And then we want a flat back with square shoulders so we can run some sort of movement if we want to. We're not tipping off to the offensive line our intentions by turning our shoulders. There's all the drills that we do. We do cover tackling primarily as a team during the preseason. We'll teach that in lines, pretty much the Seattle Seahawks type stuff. We will add that in to a finish on these drills, especially as the season gets rolling week to week. First drill that is defensive line specific is our step and strike. We'll get under the chutes. We call it the Thunderdome. And we start off with that great stance. Our feet are correct. Our first step is always with that inside or back foot when we begin to throw the strikes. So I'll clap. They'll take that first step. Hands are starting to come by Kevin. Second step. And our hands will hit our target. Our target is the bottom of the breastplate. I'll clap 2 more times to build that muscle memory of, hey, by about the 4th step, I should have this block figured out. And the really good guys that we've had, a lot of times on that 2nd step, they're already reacting to the block that they get in front of them, and then we're going to execute one of our block destructions. Here's some film of our step and strike. We got Kevin and Jackson going. And all the intention of this drill is let's keep a nice, big, strong, powerful base. We want to be in that about 3/4 squat the entire way. We want to fit up. Again, our hands on the bottom of the breastplate. Kevin's pad level's a little bit better than Jackson's there. And as long as we keep our face mask underneath the chin of that blocker in front of us, we feel like we're in a good spot. Here we go. This is junior Charlie and sophomore James. You see Charlie, way too big a first step. So if I'm taking that step and a double team would happen, I'm going to typically get knocked down. And the nice part of what we've done is in the next clip here, we've been coaching this now this way. This is how we begin the preseason 3 years in a row. Charlie is a senior now. He's a fine-tuned machine. That first clap, we got the first step. Second step, he's got a strong, powerful base. His face mask is under the chin of the blocker. He could have his thumbs up yet, working that hand placement a little bit more, but he's definitely delivering a strike on target. Good job by Travis on the other side there. Here's Kevin when he was a sophomore, I believe. Again, he's overstepping. He's getting himself too long. The other thing, okay, double team can knock him down. The other thing that's bad about too long a step is if you get that down block, you can't redirect quick enough on something like an inside trap. So now here's junior Kevin. Unfortunately, he showed off really good wheels as a guard and some preseason stuff. So he got moved to linebacker. Him and Travis, though, are both doing good job here as a junior. Both those guys are nice and low. They're striking upwards. They're hitting the bottom of the bag, which is representing the breastplate. And this is a great drill you can do. All we got helmets on for is in case our pad level gets high and we bump our head on the top of the Thunderdome, or if we take our forehead and end up making a little contact on the face mask of our buddy instead of going through his lip or anything. Here we go. James is a junior. A bit better. Pad level's lower. Feet are quick, short steps. Nathan on the other side, you see him get a little elongated. No, he's good. This is him as a senior. He's nice and low underneath that pad level. This is what I was talking about. So right now, he has started his strike and has barely taken a step. So we tell our guys, hey, we were in that weight room doing our deadlift, doing our hang cleans, doing our bench press to put all that together and be a great football player on the snap. If I fire my hands before I've taken those 2 steps, my bench press is weak once I'm at the top. I'm not getting my legs and my core involved in that strike. I'm not going to knock that guy back as much as I could. So junior Nathan here improves greatly by the time he's a senior and ends up being a starting outside linebacker for us this past year. Cole here, again, we could have our hand on the ground, but I believe this is a sophomore or junior year. Regardless, his pad level's good. Short, quick steps, keeping that powerful base, making sure all of his weight room is going to be beneficial. And then putting it all together, coming in on film. Here's Zach at 5 technique. He's on a called squeeze. Doesn't get all the way to the B gap, but he's striking the B gap blocker, that offensive tackle, backwards. Basically uses the offensive tackle to spill the trap by the guard. Falls off, makes the tackle with a little help from his inside linebacker. Now check Jay at nose here. I love how much he jolts that center's head backwards, pretty much right off the snap, knocks the pulling guard off his path. Fullback runs into him, and then he just makes a great effort play, holding on with one hand while his teammates help out with the tackle. Here we are against Constantine. This is James. They had been cutting him on the previous couple of clips, so he took what he was doing in those step and strike drills and lowers his pad level a little bit, makes sure he gets his hands forklifting underneath and on the breastplate of that center, gets the center stood up, and he, for the most part, is winning with his pad level, knocking that guy back, and just makes a mess of the play, knocking the guard off the track, and there was a fumble and a chance at an opportunity. Here is Kelvin at nose. He's going up against a D1 center. The kid that he's going to knock back here is playing at Central Michigan. Right now, a cluster of Delton bodies because our nose has completely reset the line of scrimmage. He's buckled that center back, and we're going to win the play. End zone shot of the same thing. Again, that center is on his heels. We're resetting the line of scrimmage at nose. Polar, guard, and tight end aren't going to get over there and make great blocks. We're going to get them outnumbered on the perimeter and almost come up with a timely turnover. So our run block destruct, we're going to either execute a steer rip or a push-pull punch. The steer rip, we want the defender to finish that strike while pushing upward with his outside hand and pulling down with his inside hand. Continue to step and rip with that inside hand, clearing his hips to be past the blocker. Or we're going to push-pull punch. So we finish that bench press. We're going to pull the blocker back towards us with both hands and then punch over and past the ear hole to our angle that we want to escape at. The first place where we're using this, so after that step and strike, we do a reach stretch drill. We want the defender to continue to step outside, stretch and reach the reacher to the outside, controlling the blocker's outside half. We're trying to keep that leverage and fight that blocker, trying to get both of our hips completely into that outside gap so that way we can then rip off and punch or pursue to the ball carrier. If we get those hips past even, we're going to be ripping and leaving. So 3 technique, we expect them to maintain that outside gap and to stretch that block until the ball carrier cuts back. If we, again, ever get past even, we're ripping and leaving. As a 4 technique, we're going to play a leg technique, and we don't tell our guys that we're going to get reached. We're focused on striking that tackle in front of us or perhaps the center if we're a 0 technique nose. And because we're focused on getting that strike, if that offensive tackle wants to reach us, he's going to get us reach. We just need to stretch the block of that offensive tackle from that point. We can't let the guard overtake us on his reach, or allow what some coaches call a jump through, where that guard gets us reach, because now we're no longer in the B gap, which is what we're primarily responsible for when we're playing an even technique. So we get on the grid. These are 2.5 yard by 2.5 yard squares. Watch Jonan. He's on defense against Travis here. Starts to fight the reach. Works to get his bench press. He gets to the outside. He's ripping his arm and working to leave. Now you're probably going to get the best rep out of Timmy here, or Travis. We'll watch Timmy the first clip. Timmy gets outside, could do a little better job with the bench press, but does rip off right towards the end right there, and he's controlling the outside gap. Watch Travis now. Travis has got, he's steering that outside shoulder of Jonan, getting that lift, and we can't see the rip because he's behind some guys there. But here's Davion, one of the better D linemen I've coached as far as his technique. Don't love, he's stepping with the wrong foot here. He should be stepping right now. We're simulating the balls to our left. Excuse me. Yeah, balls to our left. He should have stepped with that left inside foot first. He's probably cheating the drill a little bit. But then he's working to flatten that block and try to get past that block and get back to that outside gap as much as he can. Again, his footwork's wrong. The ball's inside to his right here. He should be stepping with his right foot. But his job, I'm going to run and flatten that guy and just keep on running. The other drill that we are going to teach right after that, so now we're stepping, striking, and we're going to get a down block that we're going to squeeze and look for something to spill. So the defender is going to step down, squeeze that block further inside. We're going to fit the outside half of the blocker tightly with our hands waist high. Our inside hand is on that belly button. The outside hand is on top of the hip. And again, we're helping push him down further inside. We're trying to get a 2-for-1 or even a 3-for-1 by making him miss his down block on an inside linebacker potentially, and then picking off a kick-out block by a guard or a fullback, and then possibly the wrap by a tackle or guard in some sort of power or counter scheme. Once those shoulders have turned perpendicular, that's the signal that now you continue flat and you're hunting for that inside threat, whether it's, again, that guard trap or that fullback kick-out or potentially the ball. And then we're going to destroy that inside threat by ripping the outside shoulder across the inside half of the man and really focusing on snapping our shoulders back to parallel with the line of scrimmage while we run the circle tight to pursue outside. So eventually we're working to drill this where we get that down block, we squeeze it, we find the threat inside, we take our outside shoulder through it, and we run the circle back outside, because that's where the ball is going to go if we haven't already run into the tackle. So here's us just working the down block portion on the grid. Pretty sure Timmy gives us a great rip here. His shoulders are turned. Real good rep by, watch Jonan. Jonan's right here. Jonan's shoulders are turned. He's flattening that block. We're not getting a Reese up to linebacker level. And we tell our guys, that's the nice part about this grid. We're lining up. We're putting we're making sure that is splitting our crotch. And we tell those guys, if we can flatten that thing for a grid box, which is, again, 2.5 yards, we've done our job up front. Now we're going to spill things on accident for the most part. So here they come the other way. Let's get to the next clip. Real good. These are outside backers, but they're part of our drill because we're going to end up with 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. You see Cole's hands are a little high right now, but his shoulders are turned. He's squeezed down about a grid box. That tight end would not get a clean release to the linebacker. It's now Tate against Cole. Right there. Again, hand could be just a little lower, but we got one hand on the inside, one hand on the back hip, and we flatten it down the line of scrimmage until we get our shoulders perpendicular. Here's Charlie. Real good job fitting that hip. Right now he's in a great position to trap the trapper, which we'll introduce coming up here real shortly. Another one coming. So the ball's to the defensive left. Bunch of guys squeezing that down, flattening the down block, gaining a box. So we'll take that and now we put it into our three-man drill, which is where we spend the majority of our time with the defensive front. If we got defensive linemen or we're expecting our outside linebackers to be lined up on tight ends quite a bit, we're spending our time in what we call three-man drill, where we're going to constantly be working on our fundamentals of let's have a great step and strike, let's read our key, and let's recognize our block. Is it a down block? Is it a reach block? We'll introduce some other things, but we're primarily focused on those two blocks and then either squeezing and spilling something or stretching. If that defender reads a down block, just like you saw on the previous clips there, he's stepping down, he's squeezing the air out, he's going to hunt and trap the trapper, get his shoulders turned as he's spilling, circling, and finish eventually with the roll tackle. If he gets a reach block, he's going to step and stretch to the outside, steer the breastplate, flip our hips, rip and clean, and then we're finishing typically with a profile tackle as we get in season. So if we get a ball carrier involved, that ball carrier will be dragging a bag behind him, and again, we're going to roll tackle that because typically that guy's running away from us. We're not going to have time to get chest to chest in a profile type tackle situation. So here's that spill drill. JV guys jump. Keep watching. This group down here is going to do a nice job on almost all these clips. So right there's the down block. Squeeze it, get inside, run the circle tight. Nice rip by Kevin. We'll jump ahead one more time. And we want to run that as tight as possible, something we're focusing on for the upcoming season. Real good job by Charlie. Pad level, we could rip and lean a little bit more here. We're coaching these guys. Hey, I want to run that circle tight enough that I'm not hitting the back of the grid. And our JV guys, they're learning on the other side there. Here we go, Cole. Good down block. And he's winning that as tight as he possibly can. Again, this would be trap to the offensive right. Our defense, we're lining up on the left of the ball. One more clip. Charlie down inside. And he's, from the previous rep, he's running that circle even tighter. Kevin from the other side. Again, running the circle even tighter. They're improving with each rep. Actually, not a bad rep out of one of our JV guys there. Here we go, Cole. Squeeze the down block. That takes you to that trapper. Rip inside, lean, circle extra tight. Real nice job. So now, showing up in game. This is Cole as a 5 technique. Squeezes the tackle's down block. Starts to slip. He's inside the guard's down block, or trap block, and falls in to make the tackle. One more time. Again, we were watching right here. Pull. Good step and strike. Squeezes the down block, continues inside, makes the tackle. And we tell our guys, hey, if you trust the down block, you play the down block, and that ball carrier's stubborn about hitting that inside gap, you're going to find yourself making tackles. As much as it's fitting within the scheme of let's spill the ball to our faster ball carriers, hey, we're going to get our tackles doing this too. We'll get right to the end zone shot of this. I believe this is Travis right here at 4 technique. Now he's on a called squeeze to that guard, but he's reading that guard's down block. That guard continued down inside. We could have a little lower pad level, but he finishes, wins inside, gets a little help from his inside linebacker. If we run our feet a little better at linebacker and help our D linemen out, we'd probably make the play at the line of scrimmage. Here we go. Mostly Cole as a 3 technique here. He's going to get counter GT at him. He thinks it's trap. hits the guard, almost picks off the tackle himself, makes the ball carrier bubble really far back. And if our safety doesn't get blocked in the back there, we probably have a tackle for about a 3-yard loss. Real good play. Another time where our 3-man drill shows up. Pretty sure you're watching 5 technique Davion here. Gets a down block, finds that guard, rips inside, gets himself in on the tackle. Linebacker help shows up, and we actually strip the ball away. First snap of the game, come up with a big turnover. We won't talk about how the rest of that game went. The other thing we're doing in 3-man drill, and once we get in season, we're going to alternate these 2 things. They're not going to know what's coming. The first time through, I'm going to tell them, hey, this is what's coming. This is how you're reacting to it. But as we get going by about the 3rd practice, they don't know what's coming. It's live. It's full go. Everything except for we're not quite going to tackle to the ground. So we get that reach block. We're going to flatten and stretch it as wide as far as we can to the perimeter until we can rip off it. Real good job here, Charlie, bottom of the screen. And we're playing with, I believe, yeah, we're head up right now. So we're going to get reached by that initial guy. Keep stretching it. If that guy leaves you and you beat the reach block of the next guy, Charlie's primarily a 4 technique for us. If that guard never reaches you, you're playing in your B gap. Rip off when the ball carrier gets out there, go make the play. Actually, probably kids cheating the drill up here, but that's even better. Nice job by the, I believe that's a JV kid. Okay, Kevin and James, again, the other guy's running as the ball carrier. Kevin's working hard to keep that outside gap. Wins outside, hips are outside, rip, fit up with a profile tackle. Be a little better with the profile tackle. Nice job. Watch Jonan behind him. Yeah, that is a JV guy. That's Luke he's going against. Bubbles back a little bit, but works back to that outside leverage, and then he's working to go make the tackle on Brandon there holding the back. Cole, actually great rep here. He pulls the blocker back towards him, wins back outside, completely sets the edge by getting his hips past even. Here's Kevin again. Makes a nice tackle. Again, we want to win to that outside. Now, Cole's rep was so good that I stopped practice and tell the guys, hey, watch this. Cole showed me something that I haven't been coaching before. He's taken that idea of the steering wheel. If I can't get there, I'm going to pull back on his jersey a little bit, get myself back to leverage, and get myself to making that profile tackle, controlling my gap. Right now, watch our 3 technique Davion. He's going to get sweep or outside zone, whatever you want to call it, to his side. And he's going to force the ball to cut up in the A gap, actually. Does a great job of winning his B gap. I believe he's playing as a wide 3. He's got his inside foot on the guard's outside foot. Completely gets the shoulders turned to that guard, gives that ball carrier nowhere to go except for to cut back hard. Gives the rest of our defense time to run it down. And we end up making the tackle. If our inside linebacker is a little more downhill, we probably tackle that for a 2-yard loss. Watch the 9 technique on the top. Stretches the tight ends block. Make sure he wins outside. Runs down the quarterback. Nice job by Jay. End zone shot. Secure the outside. Get your hips past even. Rip and leaving. Go make a tackle for loss. The other thing that we'll add in then is we're going to teach our guys how to slant and angle. Slant is movement by a weak side defender to the next offensive lineman to the strength call. Angle is a movement by the strong side defenders to the next offensive lineman away from that strength call. The defender is going to step diagonally, aiming to fit the outside half of the blocker. So I'm going from being potentially a 4 technique to moving to that 3 technique. I still have that aiming point of inside hands on the belly, outside hands on the hip, and then we're playing that target just like we would if we were playing that 3 technique. If that target goes away, the screws have turned away from us, we're going to chase. We're either running something down from behind or we're spilling a kick-out block of some sort. If that target comes to us, we're going to ricochet and penetrate. If on that movement we all of a sudden get outside pressure, we're going to run the circle and penetrate much like we would against a trap block. So here's run away. I aim for that guard. I should be able to beat that tackle by taking a quick first step. And until I get hands on that guard, that tackle doesn't exist. And then I'm running flat down the line of scrimmage. If I get run to me, so those screws turn towards me, I'm going to ricochet and then redirect outside. And then this was the last one I was talking about. I step down inside. I get hands on that guard, but then I feel that outside pressure. I'm running the circle almost like I would when I'm spilling a trap. Don't have clips of us practicing that particular drill in practice. Here's a game clip though. Our nose is slanting. Gets the guard pulling. Shows up real early. Center can't reach him. Good execution of his slant technique. Backside 4. He's aiming for the guard. Guard's gone. He confirms the ball's in the backfield. And that ball carrier is a fast ball carrier. Does a great job of running from behind and making the roll tackle. End zone shot of the same thing. Flat down the line of scrimmage. Pursue. We do a nice job of forcing the ball back. And nice athletic play. Last run-based drill that we're going to do is our 4-man drill. We're, again, drilling just all those fundamentals of defensive line play. The defender we're primarily still focused on the blocker we're lined up against, and we're reading down a reach block off of him. With that reach block, when we feel the double team, this is where the drill becomes different. We'll also do this on movement from something like a 4 technique into that B gap towards that guard, where we feel that double. We're going to now step and stretch the primary blocker, our pressure key, I guess, is what I call him. I'm steering him. I'm flipping my hips into the outside blocker, much like a basketball box out, while pulling the inside blocker's shoulders open to hopefully split that double team. If that doesn't happen, I feel myself start to give ground, I'm going to drop the upfield knee, corkscrew, and make a pile. So the 2 main looks that we're working in that drill is possibly as a 4 technique with that tight end and tackle. That tackle down blocks. I feel no outside pressure. I see that guard coming. I'm going to spill the trap just like I would in 3-man drill. 3 technique, maybe against a guard and tackle. So they're either getting a trap or they're getting a double team. I'm focused on striking that guy in front of me, even as the even technique. If I knock that guy back, if that tight end's down block is not flat enough, I'm going to create that penetration and split that double team before it even gets going. So if I don't get that, I'm again flipping my hips into the outside of that tight end and trying to vice myself in between and split that double team. The other drill that we end up working is our defensive line 3-on-1s. This is primarily for our zeros, but our 4 techniques will rotate in this drill mainly because we usually will have 2 quality 0 techniques at the varsity level, and we just want those 4 techniques over there giving looks and building some depth. But they're not coached to be backdooring those reach blocks. They're going to end up with a leg technique because they're focused on striking that center back. If they strike that center back and it's some sort of guard pulling scheme, that's always good for us on the defensive side. If they get the reach block, they're going to work to stretch that, flatten that, and they'll end up playing that backside A gap most of the time. I think you'll see 2 good examples of the double team drill showing up, or our 4-man drill. Our 0 technique is going to win his double team by striking the center, and he's going to split it by knocking the center back, resetting the line of scrimmage. And then our 5 technique doesn't get that outside pressure from that tight end, so he works into the C gap on his reach. Does a nice job of flipping his shoulders and helping make the tackle. End zone shot. We'll play it twice. Watch to the nose the first time. James. Right there. He's definitely an A-gap. Tackling from behind. Play it through one more time. Watch Travis out at 5 technique. And he's playing a tight 5 technique against Delton. Flips his hip. Falls down. and he would have been in position. If that ball carrier would have continued to spill himself out, he would have been in position to make the tackle. It was really James that was making the play at nose there. So now I believe it's Travis at nose against Berrien. Strike in the center, feels the double team, flips his hips, works to stay in his A-gap, and makes a nice tackle from behind. So right there, he's stepping and striking, could have a little lower pad level, flips his hips. As soon as that guard leaves to get to the linebacker, Travis rips off, makes a nice shoelace tackle. Strap up your helmet a little bit more so you can go do it the next play, Travis. Double team at nose. So this is that 3-on-1 showing up. All right, center stepped away on my strike. I'm staying in my A-gap, and he's going to knock basically both guards out of the play. The pulling guard gets knocked back. He throws that pulling guard into the ball carrier. The other guard doesn't get his down block. And that he's worked that in that 3-on-1. Explosive up the field, maintaining his A-gaps. Real good play by Kelvin at nose there. This is us against Delton. Watch the 4 technique right here. He is working a squeeze to that guard's hip in the B-gap. And we had rep this week. All right, you step down to that guard, but then you feel outside pressure by that offensive tackle. Do what you can to either penetrate this B-gap, or he ends up falling off the block to the outside and becomes a bonus guy on the C-gap. Now, he keeps the linebacker completely clean here by knocking that guard off his track. Forces the ball to bounce and then gets back outside. Great play by Matt here at 4 technique. Also helps he was a former inside linebacker earlier in that season. We trusted him quite a bit. He was a tough player, smart, read his keys real well, moved him down, and he contributed a lot. Not quite a pure double team, and as much as we're repping against that double team, that 4-man drill lets us get all different combinations. We're a 3 technique here. The tackle tries to cut him. The guard's down blocking, and he stays alive. Travis does a great job of staying, trusting what he's drilled to do, staying upfield here, because he feels that tackle's outside pressure. End zone shot of the same thing. Squeezes that down block. He knows he's inside the guard, and then just great effort. Lots of good things can happen if you just have more effort than the other team. Pass block destruct, we teach 2 additional moves here. The first one's what we call flip, clear, rip, where the defender's going to get upfield on the first step, going to flip his hips, and both of his hands to clear the elbows of the blocker. We want to make sure we make contact on the tricep above the elbow so we get the entire upper body to move. And then the other move that will work is a rip chop. After we get that blocker to turn his shoulders, we're going to violently rip up and then chop back down to get those hands completely off us and be clean to run to the ball. And then we'll put that into our pass rush gauntlet. We don't do a ton of one-on-ones. That first guy, we're going to work that flip, clear, rip. The second guy, we're going to work our rip and chop. And then the third guy, we're going to work whatever our favorite move is. Typically, the shorter guys are always steer rip guys. The bigger guys, some of them like the push-pull punch a little bit more. Sometimes when you get a blocker trying to cut you. Working a little bit more of an arm over, a punch over is appropriate even for the smaller guys. So there it is, Aaron. Just go through a couple clips of this. Davion could flip his hips a little more. Good job with the steer rip at the end. I really like that part. There you go, Kevin. Real good. Let's watch that one more time. Real good. Flip clear. Rip chop. Steer and rip. And he's chasing me down. We're focusing on keeping contained that particular week with the quarterback that was kind of effective. Carl. Again, nice job. And this is just while, okay, you don't get blocked by 3 guys, this is our fastest way that we've developed of getting a guy to realize he might have to execute multiple moves during his pass rush. Here's Charlie, could have flipped his hips a little bit more, but he's doing a decent job running the gauntlet for us. Here, I believe, is sophomore Travis. Like him to get 2 hands on his clear there, but it's decent. Rip chop, and he could pull down a little more on his steer rip, and he didn't turn that corner in an angle to pursue me. Cole gets his 2 steps. I'd like his hands on that flip clear rip. I'd like his hands to be a little bit more together. He's really only getting, let's see if we can pause it. He's really only getting that outside hand there. Clear rip. And again, we're really working on leverage that week. Just putting it all together in the game. This is absolutely the best clip I have of pass rush gauntlet showing up in the game. Our 0 and 4. Right now, they're both starting to turn that corner. They're ripping off. And they flush the quarterback to the other 4 technique. So again, our 0 technique and our 4 technique, Cole and James. Working upfield, get that separation. Our hips are past even. We're ripping and leaving. Flush them into the B gaps where the other 4 technique makes the play. And that's what you got to sell your guys on the defensive line, that pass rushing is about. And it's about us as a unit making sacks happen for each other. It's all of us working together, really taking all that technique that we've had, combine it with great effort and energy, and we're going to come up with enthusiastic plays. Here we go at the bottom of the screen. Davion, great job of steering and ripping. Forces a quarterback to step up, and we make the sack. Also helps we have great man coverage going on behind that. Cole, I believe, at the bottom of the screen. He's getting his hands on, working a little bit of that clear. Rips off, makes the play. And now this is truly an individual effort, more so than the other clips where it was a group effort. Great job turning the corner. Cole again. And this is us taking the outside linebacker, using him as a defensive end against a pass-heavy team. Just works his outside gap, turns and leans, comes up with the sack. Real wide 5 technique. Last clip, keep your eyes on Tristan at 5 technique here. Working against wide of lead. Step and strike, steer, rip. Comes clean and makes the sack. So, quick recap, you got to keep everything simple yet sound. As much fun as that pass rush gauntlet is for our guys and making that big sack on a 3rd or 4th and long, it all comes back to our 3-man drill. Do we get our guys coached up and executing at a high level on that 3-man drill? Have we gotten them really good at, on first down, we're gonna spill that trap play, make it run east and west, and get a 0-yard gain or 1-yard gain. On second down, are we gonna fight that reach block, stretch it to the sideline, and get guys to rally and pursue to it to, again, get just a 0-1 yard gain and get that offense in a 3rd and long situation where we get to get after it and take all those fun pass rush moves and highlight ourselves going to get that sack. So again, keep it simple yet sound. As always, guys, if you have questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Check me out and follow me on Twitter at Coach Klee. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. And if you have anything that maybe requires a longer response, hit me up at coachbrienklee@gmail.com. Thanks as always for tuning in. See you again.